Hi guys, Sean here from ConceptChemicals, and today we're going to be going through the ZQ9H quartz nano coating. This is obviously kit form, so we're going to actually introduce you to the products, what's actually contained in the kit. But for your information, the ZQ9H, the coating itself is a 4-year coating, so one application will give you up to 4 years protection. Now this coating can actually be layered up, so you can actually use more of the same product, or you can actually use some of the other products out of the Zirconite range to actually layer this up to increase the longevity, durability and hydrophobic effect. So the product itself is abrasion resistance, scratch resistant. It's got some form of chemical resistance, and it also contains UV filters to stop some bleaching. So the coating itself will give you, obviously it'll give you the durability to protect your paintwork, but it will also give you hydrophobic qualities, so it will actually stop the dirt from sticking to the surface area, making it much easier to actually clean. So your Zirconite ZQ9H kit, so obviously in this particular kit we get 2 microfiber cloths, we get a degreaser, which the panel prep as a product is a very, very efficient degreaser. Now this will remove all surface contaminants. As you can see, this vehicle, what we're going to apply the coating to, this has already been pre-prepped, so I've cleaned it and I've actually done a machine polishing job on it. So the panel prep, I tend to use it as part of the machine polishing process, just to remove any oils that the products are going to leave behind, just to make sure that I'm going to apply the coating to the cleanest possible surface. So Zirconite panel prep is in there because it's a very efficient degreaser. Also, we've got the application block, a foam block. We've got 2 suede applicator pads. We've got the product itself, which can either come in a 30 or 50 ml pack size bottle. And there's also an option to disperse the product onto the pad using a dropper. So we've obviously got, from an health and safety perspective, we've actually got a pair of gloves. For the vehicle itself, once it's been treated, we've actually got a decaler badge. But more importantly for you guys that realistically have never used a coating or are new to the Zirconite one, you've actually got some application instructions. So this application instruction actually features this particular product and some other products from the Zirconite range, from the coatings range. So we've introduced you the product, you know what the pack contains, so let me show you how to use it. So guys, as we said into the pack shot introduction, basically this car's obviously, I've pre-cleaned it, I've machined it, all the surface areas up, that we're going to be applying coatings to. So the first step after we've done that is to actually degrease all surface areas, just to remove any surface contaminant, oil, silicones, waxes that may be on the vehicle. Because the machining process will not remove every contaminant. What it'll do, it'll actually perfect the paintwork, but it won't remove any surface contaminants. So the first step is the panel prep. So the panel prep is a very, very efficient degreaser, as I've already said. We can also use it as an inspection tool, an inspection product, after we've done the machining process, to ensure that we've actually removed all the surface imperfections in the paintwork. So the product itself can actually be sprayed into a cloth, or it can be sprayed directly onto the panel. That choice is yours. My preference in this particular instance, because I'm going to be working one panel at a time, if I spray it into the cloth, I've got more control. So let me show you how I use it. You might want to use it differently. The way that I do it, I prepare one panel at a time, and then I coat that panel, then I move on to the next one. For me, you could actually degrease the full vehicle. The reason I do one panel at a time is if I get pulled off the job, and I come back to it sometime later, at least I know that area that I've actually pre-prepped and coated is done, it's finished. So I don't have any more prep work to do with it. So that's the reason why I choose to do one panel at a time. So let's do it, let's see what we've got. So some of you may be wondering why I'm actually using microfiber cloths when I'm actually using the panel prep as a degreaser. The reason I do it is I've just spent 2 days polishing this car. So a microfiber cloth for me in this instance, because it's a soft clear coat, so for me the microfiber cloth is going to be more forgiving. It's going to help me remove the contaminant without actually damaging the surface. Some of you may prefer to use a panel wipe cloth. Again, it's personal preference. Mine is this particular one on this particular car, primarily because the clear coat is a little bit soft. So that's my reason for choosing microfiber cloths over a panel prep cloth. So now what's left for me to do before I actually apply the coating is just to ensure that the machining process that I've done prior to degreasing is actually remove all the surface imperfections, got the surface the best that it can be prior to me actually applying the coating to seal it up. So I'll use the inspection lamp, checking for swirl marks and holograms and any scratches that I may have missed. But that looks quite good. In fact, it looks very good. Okay guys, so I've actually degreased the surface area. I've inspected it for any imperfections that may be left in through the machining process. I'm quite happy with this. So now all that's left to do is apply the coating to this particular area. So realistically, before I apply a coating to this, psychologically, a panel of this size, I would actually break it down into sections for the coatings application. So for you guys that are relatively new to coatings, what I'm going to do, I'm going to mask the bonnet out actually, just so you can actually get it into your head. When we're actually doing panels of any size, we need to actually break it down into sections and put a kind of like a grid section to it. So I'm going to mask it out, and mask it out the panel sized areas which are going to be appropriate for applying the ZQ9H, and it's primarily, not for everybody, it's primarily for the guys that are relatively new or have got no detailing experience and they want to apply a coating. So let me show you how I imagine this bonnet, how I break it down in my mind. And bear in mind guys, I think in the application instructions it says something like 50 centimetre square area. That's all going to depend. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to control how quickly the product's flashing off to when we start to buff the surface area. So we're trying to control surface areas, so when we buff it off, the buffing is relatively easy, because a panel this size, you can appreciate, if I was to do it all in one go, by the time I start and I finish on that side, when it comes to buffing, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So we're trying to control that, because the more effort you actually apply to the cloth, the more of the coating you actually remove. So we don't want to get into that position. So psychologically, we break it down into sections. So I'll just mask this side out, just so you've got a general idea as to panel size, panel areas. Right guys, so we've masked an area. Psychologically, this is how you're going to break this panel down prior to applying the coating. So what we're going to actually do, we're going to apply product to the surface areas. So we're going to start off with the top section, then we're going to apply a little bit more product. We're going to go to the bottom section, by which time the top section should have started flashing off, and it's time to actually buff and remove. And then we're going to drop back into the second section. So when we look at a wing or a door, it may be in some instances that we can actually do those as a complete panel. But just bear in mind, if it's a panel of any size, you will need to break it down. That's primarily to control the force that you're actually buffing at the end of the process. So we apply, we buff, and then we move on to the next section. So let's do it. So while that one's flashing off or starting to cure, we'll move on to the next section. So for this, obviously the masking tape is a guide for you guys psychologically as to area size. So I'm just going to actually remove that line. So we just follow the contours of the bonnet. Yeah. Just trying to distribute the product as evenly as we possibly can. The product itself's quite liquid, so it actually levels out quite nicely. So I don't think it's a product that you're going to have to worry about getting eye spots with. I think the only time you're going to potentially run the risk of having to deal with eye spots is actually when you start to layer products up. Yeah, well, that's the crosshatch application method. That just ensures that we get into all the nooks and crannies, all the surface paint imperfections. We can actually fill it full of product. So we've got a nice level coating on the surface. So there you've got it. So if you actually zoom in now, you can actually see that the top section started to flash off. It's got a purple haze. Yeah. So if I move from the top to the bottom, you can actually see that the bottom is still flashing off, hopefully. Yeah. So now it's time to remove the top section. So as we're starting to buff this off, if you actually look at the bottom section, that should have started to flash off. So as soon as we finish this, we can move into the bottom section. So that's the first two sections done. All that we need to do now is repeat the process to obviously complete the job. So we'll do the front two sections, apply the product, buff it all up, and then we'll move on to the next two and finish the job off. So let's do it. So that concludes the training video. As you've seen, you've got your quartz nano coating ZQ9H kit, which comes up with all these weird and wonderful things. You've got microfiber cloths, you've got a panel prep, you've got panel wipe cloths, you've got a foam applicator block, suede pads, you've got the product itself with a dropper as an option. You've got the safety gloves, and we've also got a badge after you've applied the coating to put on the vehicle. So that's it. Realistically, you've seen the application methods, you've seen the prep, you've seen the application methods, you've seen the products being applied. We've actually broken the bonnet down visually, so you can psychologically, when you look at panels of this size, you can break them down in your own mind and actually then decide how many areas you actually need to treat to break it down. So I hope that was a good visual aid for you. But realistically, those things are there for the novice or the guy that's relatively new to detailing. The professional guy is going to know all this anyway. So I hope you found it, I was going to say entertaining then. Well, I hope you did find it entertaining. But I actually think it's ticked a few boxes: eye spots, application methods, applying products to suede pads, and actually buffing. The time frames for buffing after flashing off is very important. So hope you like it, and we'll see you very, very soon for another training video with some of the other Zirconite products. So Sean Finney signing off.